Prime Minister Narendra Modi has left for a crucial three-nation tour. The Prime Minister will kickstart the tour with a milestone visit to Japan. He will be only the second Indian Prime Minister to visit the Japanese city of Hiroshima. During the summit, the Prime Minister will speak at the G7 sessions with partner countries. Along with that, Prime Minister will hold key bilateral meetings with other world leaders. The focus of the bilateral summits will be on climate change, sustainable development and economic development. Leaders of the G7 nations have already landed in Hiroshima. U.S. President Joe Biden, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, France President Emmuasl Macron and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with other leaders, will participate in the crucial summit. So those, of course, are images of previous meetings that the Prime Minister had with world leaders, but this is going to be a very crucial visit that he's embarked upon. He is on a three-nation tour of Japan, Papua New Guinea and Australia. In Japan, he will be in Hiroshima. The Prime Minister has already emplaned for Japan, and before that he, of course, issued a departure statement in which he said, "I will leave for Hiroshima, Japan to attend the G7 summit under the Japanese presidency at the invitation of His Excellency Mr. Fumio Kishida, Prime Minister of Japan. It will be a pleasure to meet Prime Minister Kishida again after his recent visit to India for the India-Japan summit. My presence in this G7 summit is particularly meaningful as India holds the G20 presidency this year. I look forward to exchanging views with the G7 countries and other invited partners. In fact, as far as this visit is concerned, on challenges that the world faces and the need to collectively address them. I would also be holding bilateral meetings with some of the other leaders attending the Hiroshima G7 summit." After that, of course, the Prime Minister will be headed to Papua New Guinea and subsequently to Australia. My colleague Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs editor, is joining us live at the moment. Geeta, because the Prime Minister's first stop is Japan, let's focus on the meetings that he will have in Japan and how crucial is this visit to Hiroshima.
Well, a very crucial visit. Also, the fact that Japan chose Hiroshima as the city to host the G7 in itself is huge. It's messaging Polemy at a time when Russia and Ukraine are at war, and there is much conversation and threats when it comes to nuclear and countries going nuclear. So a major part of the G7 conversations will focus on nuclear disarmament. There is also going to be conversation, at least from the Indian side, owing to the war, on food security, energy security, development security issues, so on and so forth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as an invited guest of the G7, which India has been since Manmohan Singh days, for many years, and for most part of Manmohan Singh's tenure, India was invited as a guest, and for the past few years in Modi's tenure, India has been invited as guest to the G7. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will emphasize on the very issues that I just enlisted. There are a few working sessions. It begins on the 20th with the first working session where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will speak, and he will speak about not just nuclear disarmament, he'll also speak about peace and prosperity. Climate is going to be a very important part of the conversation. But Polemy, in the meetings at the G7, it's not just confined to the multilateral. We're talking about bilateral meetings Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold with most of the leaders who are attending the G7, while most of them have been listed, including the last meeting being with the UK Prime Minister. President Biden and Prime Minister Modi's meeting has not been slotted yet. But in all probability, they also could have a meeting on the sidelines. So the significance is not just G7, also India's presence and the fact that India is holding bilaterals, and the Quad leadership meeting will take place in Hiroshima this time.
Okay, so an extremely crucial stop at in Japan at Hiroshima.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.